What's going on, my Dial Bills? Team Money here, and today I am going to be giving all of you a Venom movie review. Now, here's the thing though. I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm actually about to go to the movie theater and go watch it for the first time. So I'm going to first watch it like I just said, then I'm going to give an initial response, and then I'm going to sleep on it, then give you the actual review. But all of that's going to be in this video, so stick around for that. I know in the first clip, I said that I was going to go see Venom, and I was going to give my initial response, and I was going to sleep on it, and then give my review in the morning. But after I saw Venom, I was conflicted. I ended up sleeping on it for a week instead of just a night. The movie's been out for a while. The spoilers are all over YouTube, so I don't quite. I'm still conflicted about this film. Let's start off with, is Venom a good movie? And what would I rate it as? So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate it between either 4 to a 6. Now, one thing I don't get is the Rotten Tomato scores are terrible, but people who come out of the theater say that it's great. Now, it just doesn't quite make sense there, and I would say Venom, it was an okay movie. I ended up seeing it twice. Now, a lot of people say if you're a fan, go watch it once, but don't watch it again, and stop watching it after the first time. But the second time, I actually was able to catch things that I didn't see or hear the first time. So, it was I don't know who was writing the movie, but I also heard that it was based on a certain comic, so if you haven't read it, then you're left out. But why wouldn't you want to do just Venom in general, do like stuff from all over the comics? Like, there was one part where he was talking about eyes, lungs, pancreas, all the snacks, that's really common, and in the comics he says that to Spider-Man. And there really is no Spider-Man in this movie, unless you count the very end credit scene, which is a... I don't care if this is a spoiler or not. It's not about Venom. The very end credit scene is a clip from Into the Spider-Verse. It was, to me, it was a dull clip, because it didn't really, interest me. It was probably like, okay, we get to see a little bit of it. But it didn't really show anything story-wise. And I don't understand how that Sony can cross two movies together, one animated, non-animated, and they're not even in the same universe like how Marvel does. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Why would they cross two together? All I see it as is a marketing scheme. And back to writing, there was a lot of stuff that was wrong. Like, they got the Clintars all wrong. And they also... I didn't understand how Riot was, like, in the film with Scream, and they weren't, like, fearing Venom, because Venom is their dad. They basically threw that out, and then they set it up for a sequel, which, right now, I have no clue if it could get a sequel or not. There was also no White Spider. I'm fine with that. In the Ultimate Comics, he eventually does lose the spider. But I also gotta say that for this movie, it was a good Venom standalone movie, but it was a bad origin movie. Because you can't have a Venom story without Spider-Man. It's like, Venom, I've said this before, but Venom is the counterpart to Spider-Man. Every superhero has their doppelganger. Ben 10 has Albedo. the Crimson Chin has the Nega Chin, and Spider-Man has Venom. There's so many other characters I could go off for too, but I understand that Spider-Man couldn't be in the film because of the whole contract with Marvel and Sony and movie rights. A lot of people wanted Andrew Garfield to be in Venom as his version of Spider-Man, but they couldn't do that. There were even little moments in the movie where something small would happen. Like, there's a part where Anne she has this box of stuff, and she drops it on the ground, and we see stuff like accidentally fall out of it in between Eddie's shoes, and then a second later when we see her pick it back up and walk away, the stuff's not there on the ground anymore. It somehow went back in the box. And then there's a couple other scenes similar to that are just like that, like stuff that should have been noticed, and you're probably thinking, well, that's just a little thing, it doesn't really matter. But what you don't understand is people are like paid to like notice that stuff and try and fix it, like behind the scenes. Like someone gets a notebook and a pencil, they write down what happens, and before that camera starts rolling again, they have to set it up like that. Like if someone gets their cup, they drink some of it, and it's a clear cup, so you can see like when the shoot starts, it's here, but then somehow in the next clip it's down here. That takes away the realistic setting of it. So that was thrown away. Also, in the first time I watched it, there are, I believe, 4 symbiotes. At the start of the movie, too, one of them does escape. I'm spoiling stuff. I don't really care at this point. Normally I don't try to do that for my movie reviews, but one of them escapes, and in the comics, Venom, he escaped from, I can't remember which issue it was, but he's escaped before, and he even did that in the Spectacular Spider-Man, and the symbiote that we saw, it was black, so I assumed, oh, that's Venom, he's gonna somehow run into Eddie and stuff. But no, it turns out that was Riot. That I didn't understand that too well. And also, so we have the 4 symbiotes, one's Riot, one's Venom, one is Scream, and we don't know the other one. The other 2 die, and I didn't understand that at first. I was like, oh, gross, that's intestines on the ground by that dead body. No, those were symbiotes. And I didn't like it. I also wasn't too big of a fan of how the symbiotes looked in their liquid state when it's just them. I thought in some parts they're like just too stringy. And then so the Life Foundation CEO his main goal is to try and bond symbiotes with humans to form symbiosis, and he's failing left and right. But then, all while this is happening, Riot, who's trying to make his way back to the Life Foundation to get a rocket to go home, and bring the other symbiotes with him, he's bonding perfectly with all the other or all the humans with symbiosis, even though he's taking full control over them. Like, if he's able to do that, how come the other symbiotes didn't try to do that? And then, also, the whole reason why they wanted Venom to stand out is because they wanted to make him a loser. That didn't make sense. Venom, the reason why he stood out and was banished in the original comics, it was a great concept. I'm not going to go over it right now. But, and then also for Eddie, because Spider-Man or Peter Parker wasn't there to help ruin his life, he basically was falling apart on himself, and also because of the Life Foundation and his bad report on them. So really, he was starting to bring his life around too, so there was no reason why Venom would want to bond with him, because he had anger issues. They weren't even that bad. It was mainly for one person, and he was irritated for some parts, but it didn't make sense. He also didn't have any cancer in him, nothing to heal him, so he basically was just a loser, and they thought, hey, if we make Eddie a loser and say Venom's a loser, they'll bond together, and they'll become best buds. And also in the ending, the ending is terrible, because for the ending of the final battle, we get a little tease of, oh, Venom dies. And then the next scene, it's Eddie talking to Anne, and then all of a sudden, Venom's still alive. Why would you make it seem like Venom dies, but then he's actually not dead? It made no sense. Now, I just went on the ramble of all the bad stuff. Now, there are some good stuff, like we did get to see some other characters from the Venom comics, and for the teaser for the sequel, if we get one, I don't want one, but it'd be cool if we still got one. There's also some moments where it's like, oh yeah, that was nice, that was cool. And then there was, for the end battle between Riot and Venom, when they're half solid, half liquid, and we see their hosts also fighting in that. I thought that was cool, because in the Ultimate Comics, when Venom is fighting Carnage, they're like half solid, half liquid, and I thought that was really cool that they brought that into play. And I sort of feel like at one part, Anne almost said the Daily Bugle, which I don't think they can legally say that, but she ends up saying the Daily Planet. Now, in Spectacular Spider-Man, we know that there's a rival newspaper called, it was something Globe or something Planet. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't really want to do the deep diving into trying to find out what it was, because it's not worth it for this movie review. The effects of the movie are pretty good, though. Now, where does this movie stand? I'm going to have to say Sony really wants to market off of Spider-Man as much as they can now. They're milking everything that they can. So they want to do a Venom sequel, and they already have the first Venom. And depending if the first Venom does good enough, we'll get a second one, because why wouldn't they do it? I mean, they tried to milk Spider-Man as much as they can. They got 5 movies, but then Marvel took over and basically made Spider-Man a success again. But we have those 2. There's a Silver Sable movie coming out. There's, I believe that there was talk of a Kraven the Hunter movie. I don't know how they could do that. A Black Cat movie. Really, the only thing Sony has right now, I think, is the PS4 Spider-Man. I don't know if they still own the game rights. I just know Insomniac is doing great. They teased Venom in their game, and it was amazing. They did it right. I really do know for sure that Sony only cares about the money. They don't want to make us happy. I mean, just look at the recent Fantastic Four movie. They only made that movie just because... Actually, no, that was Fox. I'm sorry about that, guys. But it was for the same reason, though. Because Fox wanted to make the Fantastic Four movie, the recent one, just so that way they could keep the contract. Because if they don't make a movie every, I think it's 4 years or something, maybe more, then they lose the movie rights. So, and Venom was a backdoor deal for them, so all I know is that I would love to see Venom in the MCU, and the Russo brothers have confirmed that, and they strictly told Sony, no, Venom is not in the MCU, and we don't want this version in it. So the Russo brothers would definitely do Venom correctly. So I think Sony really just needs to hand the rights over to them. I mean, there are videos on YouTube saying why or how Marvel fixed Spider-Man. And they really... The MCU got it correct on their first try. With Civil War, they nailed a lot of Peter Parker and Spider-Man moments. And then with Homecoming, I don't care if people say, oh, Homecoming's the worst. It's 1% less fresh than Spider-Man 2 on the Rotten Tomato, or on the... Is it called Rotten Tomatoes? Whatever the website is called. That movie is still the best because of so many reasons, and there are videos explaining that as well. Okay, I know I have been ranting for so long on why this movie is good and bad. So I think the best thing for me to do right now is to just end it here. Rate, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. I'm doing a podcast now for those, and my very first podcast, it's up on the Anchor app, and I'm not sure if it's on any other sites yet. I'm trying to push it out as much as I can, and I did it while I was on my way to go see Venom, and you guys definitely have to check that out. It's gotten positive reviews so far, and I plan on doing many more. And if you follow me on Instagram, I'll ask a question on my story on why I should give someone a shout out on my podcast, and whoever has the best answer to those questions will receive the shout out. And the first shout out's already out on the podcast, so you gotta do it. It's so much fun. I want to get as many people involved with it as I can. So anyways, rate, comment, subscribe. Have a fun day. And go see the movie if you really want to. Bye.